Okay, so here are the examples that we're going to have. Um, we're going to cycle between the levels for 3 goals. So again, I think the NASM does a good job with this. I do. I found out later, I think just through trial and error and a lot of studying, that it's not as clear cut as this, but you also have to, like when you're learning something that is complex, you kind of have to make the rules as simple as possible. So and you need to memorize the phases that go with each of these goals. Let's say somebody wants to lose weight. They're going to call that body fat reduction. That's the person's goal. So what phases would that person be in? Well, they've got to be in one because everybody does. And then we can move them up to two. They're going to burn more, they're going to work harder, right? So they're going to burn more calories. So if they can do two, we want them in two. NASM also includes three here now. They used to not do this, and now they include three. So for the test, learn it 1, 2, 3. But for real life, just know that some people are not going to be a good fit for hypertrophy work. So you might just be doing 1 and 2. But just kind of think of it like this. If you want to lose weight, you don't need these specialized things. You got to stabilize them. You got to do a little bit of strength work. If they can handle it, pop in some hypertrophy. All right. And each of these we're going to go through in a lot of detail next. So let's say that they want to increase their lean body mass, right? They want more muscular development. Everybody has to come through 1 and 2, right? These are the checkpoints that everybody has to pass through. They're going to be spending most of their time in hypertrophy, but it is also a nice complement to do some max strength work. Those two things are going to go really well together. So even though their goal is not maximal strength, you can still use that phase to help improve lean body mass. Okay. And then for performance, everybody goes through 1 and 2, but then we can just kick them right up to 5 because they're going to go right to the power level. We want to think of the word performance as a synonym of power. All right, so for the future you, not for the test you, but for the future you, I just want to give some examples of how it's so much more blurred than this, right? It's not like these black and white kind of rules. Um, a lot of athletes that I work with are also going to be doing hypertrophy, if that makes sense for their position, or max strength. They're also going to have, like during the off season, we're going to move through the strength continuum. So pretty much everybody will probably be in phases 4 and 5 once a year. I can understand why NASM doesn't want to say that, because then it seems like every phase is equally important, right? And it's not like that, but those are a nice complement. Now, a lot of people, especially I run this program design club, and we had a question where someone said, I only work with older adults. I don't want to be learning about hypertrophy and max strength and power. That's not appropriate for them. It's not appropriate for them in the way that we think of it in this like kind of stereotypical way, which helps for learning. But remember that these numbers are not weight based. These numbers are strength based. So when we're talking about a weight being 85% of somebody's max capacity, it could be 10 pounds for someone and it could be 300 pounds for somebody else, right? That is the beauty of science-based training. That I think there's two things that I want everybody to remember when you are figuring out what phases are appropriate for your clients. There are a lot of general population clients and a lot of older adults who could benefit tremendously from the higher phases, and it's us that is not putting them there. So, like, I love to do power work with older adults. One thing you have to do a lot of times is hold them back, that they can't go as fast as they want to. But like if we're doing the ladder, that's speed, agility, and quickness. That goes into phase 5. So if we are getting someone, they're not running, but they might be kind of like, that almost like in between speed where they could feel something happening faster in the brain. It's footwork patterns, right? These are the things where we already know about neuromuscular specificity, the different tempos at which we train the brain. We also know from studying plyo that that you build these new pathways from the brain to the muscles. You can recruit more muscles. All of these things, your body can fire faster, work more optimally if you're doing power training. So outside of athletes, I think the group that needs the benefits of that the most or could benefit the most from it are older adults when everything is starting to decline. If you can get this speed happening again in their brains, think about what that will do for their activities of daily living. So, when we talked about like doing the raise of like the holding 7-pound dumbbells so that you can rotate the gallon of milk. Great, super important, right? We're not taking anything away from the strength, but if you can do speed work with aging population, adjusting for what makes sense for that person's fitness level, incredible results. Um, Also, we see all of these studies that show that the biggest, and I don't want to say danger, but one of the biggest consequences of aging and is related to losing muscle mass. So if we keep people in one, it's great. They're going to have that functional fitness, right? It's going to be so much better compared to doing nothing. But if we can get them to add some of that muscle mass back, that will do so much for their general health. And that is only, it can happen a little bit in two, right? Strength endurance is like toning. So you're going to add a little bit of mass there. But where you have like these strength endurance clients that are saying they're so afraid that they're going to like build too much mass, it ain't happening, right? Like it's never happening when you do science-based training by accident. Nobody becomes Popeye by accident. Nobody also becomes Popeye overnight. But there, we might want to try for those people to talk them into, especially women who are concerned about bone loss, osteoporosis. If it's safe for them to be lifting at the higher weight, do it. That's what I say, do it. And start to work it with a little bit of hypertrophy. Maybe they're still going to come in and do like a circuit, but you might have one or two exercises where you're trying to do mass. Um, and this could be like glutes and quads, like go to the muscles where there is more that can be developed, right? Like we wouldn't for that client be working on biceps. But if they are squatting, deadlifting, this kind of stuff, then maybe try it with a little bit of a hypertrophy structure or a max strength structure. And you can do it slowly, right? Like it's up to all of this. However you do this is up to you, and it's what you're seeing visually, right? That it doesn't take long to get confident that you can tell what level somebody's working to. Is it safe? How's their form? All of those things. Okay, so enough about that. Let's get into it. If we have the people want the body fat reduction, remember they're going to be working between 1, 2, maybe 3. So what this is showing us here, this is an actual annual plan that I think we could learn a lot from. It goes month by month, and then coming down the rows, we have all of the different phases. Now at the bottom, you see the cardio. What this is saying is every month of the year, they're going to be doing cardio. So let's just acknowledge that and remove it. We don't need to see that because it's not connected to the others. So let's pretend this is a new client. They come in January, they have to do stabilization, right? Everybody does. And then in February, we can kick them up to strength endurance. And March, if they're ready for it, we're going to do a month of hypertrophy. Now, that person worked pretty hard and they're not used to that. So it makes sense in April that we would come back and do another stabilization phase. And we could repeat, then work them back up. In May, we're going to do strength endurance phase 2. In June, we're going to do hypertrophy phase 3. Now, think about this. We're 6 months in. This person has a pretty solid fitness level, like their base fitness level. So we can start to push it a little bit. So that what we're going to see is, now we don't know when, from just looking at this, but in the back half of the year, we're going to be doing a combination of all 3 phases. So this is a linear progression to begin, 1 phase at a time, 1, 1, 1, and then it becomes undulating when we're going to see multiple phases happening simultaneously. So what they do next is take 1 month and kind of blow it up for us. So they gave us January and June, which we'll talk about in a second. So let's just, don't even look at the second picture yet. Just bring yourself to the top left. It's January. They're coming in 3 days a week. They're going to do, what you can tell from this picture is they're doing strength and cardio on the same day. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're going to do strength and cardio. But we already saw, so let's come back to this. January is all stabilization. So when they come Monday, Wednesday, Friday, week 1, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, week 2, week 3, week 4, it doesn't matter. It's linear. It makes a line. They are going to be staying in the stabilization phase. So every single workout of the whole month is going to be a stabilization workout. So from this, then, say we're on this, we're in week 1 on this Monday. We know all of our numbers need to match up with that big chart for the stabilization endurance phase, because that's it. That's the only X we have. So let's come back here. This it's another thing. Like I am just, I don't think it is perfectionism. I think that it is a fair expectation that there cannot be mistakes in this textbook. If you come to June, look at what June is. June is still linear, where they're only doing phase 3, right? When you look at this is a table that is showing undulating periodization. So I crossed it out. When you look at figure 2115, it says June, but it cannot be June. It could be any of the months, July through December, but it cannot be June because June shows linear periodization and July through December all shows undulating. So let's just pretend that they did it correctly and it said July. All right, so they're still coming in Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They're doing cardio every day. Done. But within week 1, they're going to be moving up and down between the levels. So we kick off the week with a stabilization exercise. Wednesday, we increase our intensity up to a strength endurance exercise, some superset action happening there. Friday, we're going to do the hypertrophy workout. And then week 2, repeat. Week 3, repeat. Week 4, repeat. Will the numbers be the exact same? No. You're going to be doing these small progressions throughout the weeks, but the exercises are going to be the same and the ranges are going to be the same. So if it's in stabilization on the Monday, we're never leaving the stabilization numbers, okay, during this month, during this monthly cycle. All right, so hopefully everybody can see now, if you connected these dots, this would be undulating like a wave. Okay, so it gets easier now. It is pretty much the same thing, but we're just going to see how it looks different for the people that want to gain mass and the people that are for performance. All right, so for the